Exclusive and disturbing details on the state of Ontario's long-term care homes before the pandemic.
I remember all the residents that die because I'm young.
That young resident shares what she's witnessed at one of the highest-ranked homes for violation reports. Plus,
cases are not going down. Why are we still closed? What's the end goal, and when's the end date of this going to happen?
losing money and losing patients. With COVID-19 cases rising, businesses forced to close are questioning whether the restrictions are necessary. Health experts weigh in, and
the annual haunted house tour at Toronto's Casa Loma is back.
No, please!
I'm Dahlia Ashery. Tonight, we tell you how organizers here at the Casa Loma are ensuring you have a safe yet spooky Halloween.
Good evening, I'm Talia Ricci. We begin with exclusive details on the state of Ontario's long-term care homes in the lead-up to COVID-19. A CBC Marketplace investigation reveals nursing homes broke the law 30,000 times over 5 years. It also shows 85% of Ontario homes in the database were repeat offenders. Midland Gardens Community Care in Scarborough ranked third highest in the province for violation reports. For the last few years, it's been home to a resident with a unique perspective, a young woman with a spinal cord injury. Lauren Pelly brings us her story.
When you ask Cheyenne about her time in long-term care, she doesn't hold back what she's seen.
A lot of death. I remember all the residents that die because I'm young.
Cheyenne is just 28 years old. CBC News is protecting her identity for privacy and safety reasons. She's been living at Midland Gardens Community Care in Scarborough for close to 4 years after suffering a spinal cord injury. Cheyenne says residents here have long been neglected.
A lot of bruises, pressure sores.
And they're fed these cold, processed meals, she says. It all prompted her to give the home a nickname.
Midland Garbage. I've been trying to get out of there since 2017.
According to a CBC Marketplace investigation into thousands of long-term care violations over a 5-year span, Midland Gardens is among the top facilities in Ontario, with more than 200 written notices. Repeat violations included infection control issues, injuries due to falls, medication errors or storage issues, abuse, and neglect. The company that operates Midland Gardens told us it takes all incidents, allegations, and complaints seriously and has taken steps over the last few months to protect staff and residents, making sure they're as safe as possible. As an added measure, we continue to meet weekly to review all areas of compliance, and we have assigned a compliance lead who is collaborating closely with the ministry, the company told us in a statement.
We have to continue to understand how we best support residents in the home and staff and families.
This is a particularly frail and vulnerable population. This is why we want to make sure that we have regulations in place that are going to make sure they're getting the best possible care.
That's Cheyenne's hope for her fellow residents as well. She survived COVID-19 this year when the virus tore through the home, but dozens of others did not.
The person who had asked me what I did for the day, what movie I watched, they were like my grandma and grandpas.
What she wants for them now is accountability.
The government has known for decades that there's problems in these homes.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Critical staffing shortages in Ontario's long-term care homes should be urgently addressed as the second wave of the pandemic intensifies. That's one of the interim recommendations from an independent commission released today. Ontario's Long-Term Care COVID-19 Commission is calling for more full-time personal support workers. Premier Doug Ford reacted to the news this afternoon. He says the health and safety of seniors is a priority, and the province has already acted on some of the Commission's recommendations.
We've inherited a broken system, a system that's been broken for over 30 years, probably even longer than 30 years. We're putting more funding into long-term care than ever in the history of this country, in the history of this province.
Ford says his government is spending over $500 million to build and upgrade long-term care homes. The commission is also calling for stronger partnerships between long-term care homes and hospitals. It will submit its final report next April. A road rage incident may have led to a man's death on the 401 tonight. Emergency crews were called to the scene of the collision on Highway 401, west of Bathurst Street and east of Allen Road, just before 7. The OPP say a transport truck hit the 25-year-old man as he walked eastbound on the westbound lanes. Police say he was walking on the highway following the alleged road rage incident. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police believe 3 vehicles are involved. The SIU has been notified because a police cruiser was in the area at the time. Indigenous demonstrators are settling in for the long haul at a housing development in Caledonia. They've been there since July. It's a long-standing dispute over the land. But a new court order has tempers flaring again and all sides looking for action from the federal government. Jorge Barrera is there.
A crushed school bus on the front line of an old land grievance, inflamed anew. After a night of fire, a tense calm behind the barricades that have now spread to a connecting highway. Those here say the people of 6 nations back them.
You know, my mom is the one that's pushing this along. My aunts, people of the women of our community that understand that connection to the land that we have.
But from Ontario's premier and the local mayor today, condemnation.
Hopefully we can straighten out the bad apples, and there's only a small group. And as far as I'm concerned, it's putting a bad name out there, and it's unacceptable.
I don't condone it any more than the Premier does. I think you can see this is not peaceful.
Absolutely.
Words quickly dismissed.
For Doug Ford and Mayor Hewitt to come out with their ignorant statements that are doing nothing but inflaming the situation.
In the 18th century, the British granted land to 6 nations, the Haldimand Tract, 10 kilometers on each side of the Grand River. Today it retains just 5%.
What kind of jerk would I be to my granddaughter or my great-granddaughter to tell her one day why I didn't fight for the land? Because I was scared?
An Ontario judge granted a permanent injunction to the developer Thursday. It's up to the OPP to clear out the camp. The road in front of the occupied property dug up Friday morning. Another line of defense. The 6 Nations elected council supported the project. Today, it acknowledged that decision upset some community members. It called on the federal and provincial governments to finally sit down and sort out these long-standing land grievances. Jorge Barrera, CBC News, Caledonia, Ontario.
It's been 2 weeks since part of Ontario, including Toronto, have been under new Stage 2 restrictions. Indoor dining, gyms, and other spaces have been closed and will stay that way for the next couple of weeks. But business owners are wondering why their doors remain locked while cases aren't decreasing. Angelina King spoke with one gym owner who's feeling frustrated.
This was F45 training before they had to close for the second time. Classes were limited to 10 people, working out 2 meters apart in their own taped-off square. Equipment wasn't shared and temperatures were taken before entering.
We've gone through all these procedures to make sure everyone feels safe in our studios, yet that wasn't good enough.
Now the lights are off and the gym is empty, while owners plead with the government to not extend the restrictions past 28 days.
There has been no transmission in the F45 studios around the Toronto area. So cases are not going down. Why are we still closed? What's the end goal, and when's the end date of this going to happen?
Since the restrictions were put in place, the number of new cases in Ontario hasn't declined, but health experts say it's too early to tell if they're working, and they'll have a better idea after the 2-week mark.
I think everything is a little bit murky in terms of the data.
Epidemiologist Ashley Chute says that's partly because Toronto Public Health suspended some contact tracing at the beginning of the month. Still, she thinks the restrictions are the right move.
I don't think the absence of a rapid decline is sufficient to be able to say, well, this has been a failure and we can just open things back up again. We do know that the most effective way for reducing growth in cases is by reducing number of contacts.
Before the recent shutdown, TPH said near the end of September, 44% of active community outbreaks were from restaurants, bars, and entertainment venues. While no data was provided for gyms, it said outbreaks were associated with fitness classes and sports teams. When asked what evidence the province has now, the Associate Chief Medical Health Officer said,
"We know that COVID-19 is transmitted where we have people congregating closely and not wearing masks. So those are the settings where those congregations were happening, in addition to private gatherings."
The worry for Phil Cormier is whether gyms can survive this second shutdown.
It's not a sustainable thing. If we had some clarity moving forward on how long this would be, we can actually put that into our business model and account for it.
Dr. Yaffe says at this point she can't say whether the restrictions will go past that 28-day mark. She did say Ontario could look at some sort of other modified restrictions, but that all depends on where the numbers are at come 2 weeks. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Sunnybrook Hospital has joined the growing list of Toronto healthcare facilities undergoing a COVID-19 outbreak. The hospital says there are 5 cases of the disease in one of its surgical units. Sunnybrook says outbreak control measures are in place and that there's been no transmission to other areas of the hospital. It remains open for all scheduled clinics, procedures, and emergency visits. 7 hospitals in the city are currently dealing with COVID-19 outbreaks. A wet and windy evening in the city after a fall day that felt more like summer. Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now, and I'm guessing those patios cleared out pretty quickly this evening.
Thanks, Talia. Well, boy, oh boy, we start the day off with some fog, then treated to just some incredible conditions. And then, of course, at the end of the day, all the active weather that pushed through, especially through, yes, central Ontario, but also, as we've been seeing, some of that's been moving through as well, the GTA, and things all changing up for the weekend. But let me just recap, okay? Some of those conditions with the temperatures like St. Catharines, unofficially the high in the upper 20s, humidex values in the low 30s for nearing the end of October, right? And Toronto making it nearly to the mid-20s as well. Hamilton, Oshawa, not too bad. That southwesterly flow sometimes when it comes from the south to southwest off the lake keeps it slightly cooler. Even Windsor there towards the mid-20s. But of course, that front and the showers and thunderstorms along it getting there a little bit earlier, and because of that and the cloud cover associated, kept the temperature down, capped off just a little bit lower there just due to that timing. So as we move into the overnight hours, here's where that front goes, and the rain showers and those embedded thunderstorms associated with it. Moving through in the overnight without the daytime heating. Yes, it loses some of its punch there. As it moves out, continuing on through eastern Ontario and beyond towards tomorrow morning, drying out significantly. A few areas, certainly with a few spotty showers, we'll be seeing some of that. Those winds, as they've turned to the northwest and continue turning to the northwest behind the front, they're still going to be somewhat strong and breezy. Because of that, we'll see some lake effect showers, and in some areas with some cooler temperatures, especially later on Saturday night, maybe even a few flurries in there as well. That would be coming off of Lake Huron and into Georgian Bay. A lot of cloud cover, though, especially early on Saturday. We'll see that breaking up somewhat later on Saturday. And then we get clear skies Saturday night. That allows the temperatures to really drop off. It'll be cool Sunday morning, and then some cloud cover coming back in for us essentially into Sunday. So unfortunately, where you want the clearer skies, that's coming more in the overnight hours than so much in the daytime hours. Your temperatures for southwestern Ontario looking like this, so really beginning that cool down, and then you feel it tomorrow. What a contrast, right? From the temperatures from today, way above seasonal, to below seasonal. Overnight tonight, just beginning the cool down through the Golden Horseshoe. Then tomorrow afternoon, going from 24 to, highs of 8. So tonight down to 6, and then only riding up a couple of degrees. Saturday night down to close to freezing. Areas north of the 407 going down to freezing, possibly even a little below. So some frost development, certainly we're looking for that. And then into Sunday, 7 degrees. Look ahead into the 5-day forecast. We are talking about chilly temperatures moving through, and the next system coming in into Monday, bringing some showers right back into the area. Talia.
Well, it was nice while it lasted. Thanks, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Investigators have now released the name of the man found murdered inside a Markham home this week. Police say the victim is 58-year-old Mehdi Amin. Friends of Amin say he was a well-known Iranian activist. Police were initially called to Amin's home in the Bayview and Highway 7 area on Wednesday afternoon. Officers found him dead inside. Investigators are looking for a black Honda CR-V with license plate BNEV 917 in connection with the case. There's a big by-election on Monday right here in Toronto.
People in this riding need real representation.
I think it's really important that our representation has somebody who comes from the area.
And I know what it means for the people watching to see themselves in me.
It means a lot.
We speak to the candidates looking to win the seat in Toronto Centre. Plus, a safe, spooky season. We take you on a tour through Casa Loma's haunted house and show you how the experience has adapted to COVID-19 safety protocols. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Voters head to the polls on Monday for federal by-elections in 2 Liberal-held Toronto ridings, Toronto Centre and York Centre. But it's Toronto Centre that's attracting the most attention. Lorenda Redekop takes a look at the race in which all 4 candidates for the main parties are people of color.
Campaigning during a pandemic means mainly meeting people outside, though the Liberals are also knocking on doors. Many people recognize Marcy Ian as a longtime TV journalist.
So I was born in St. Jamestown.
The Prime Minister met her through her work and says he started thinking of her as a candidate months ago.
When we spoke together in February, just this last year, on Black History Month and talking about some really important issues.
Ian says big issues for her this election include homelessness, jobs, and dealing with the pandemic. And as a Black woman, she wants to use her voice.
With 2 young women, and they said, yes, we're so glad to see you. So I know what it means to do this.
She's up against another Black woman, the new Green Party leader, Annamie Paul.
When we ask people about what's on their mind, it's not scandal.
She says the controversy over We and Bill Morneau's connections to the charity aren't an election issue. She hopes she can turn a riding that's been Liberal for 27 years.
People in this riding need real representation because they have not received it for decades from the Liberal MPs that come into town to win the vote and roll out on the next train.
The Greens didn't want this election during a pandemic and are only campaigning outside, no door knocking. It's the same for the NDP. Brian Chang came in second in the last election, though well behind the Liberals.
I'm not a parachute candidate. I'm not a wealthy millionaire. I'm not a famous celebrity. I'm running in my home riding because this is where I live with my partner, Jeff.
It's unclear how much the Conservatives are campaigning in this riding. Benjamin Gari Sharma replaced their previous candidate. He doesn't appear to have a website. His campaign team responded to me saying they're too busy to do an interview.
I'm excited to support the Greens in right now because of Annamie Paul's recent election.
I believe the Liberal government's done a pretty good job handling the pandemic.
Annamie Paul, be daring. What I was saying was I voted Green.
The advance polls give a sneak peek at what voting during a pandemic will look like on Monday. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Trick-or-treating might not be an option for children wanting to celebrate Halloween this year, but Casa Loma is offering a safe yet still scary alternative for the rest of the month, a haunted house experience. Our brave Dahlia Ashry checked it out.
People will be within their own group, and they tour almost a kilometer plus of interior and exterior space on their own, in their own social bubble.
Halloween's going to be looking a little different this year, but you know what's back? The haunted house tour here at the Casa Loma. So let's see just how different it is. Follow me.
I braved the moment and went in solo. Others did not. This family started off outside.
No! No, please!
There's projections of mice that are coming out. I hate mice. Well, there we go. Just the sound scared me.
There's no lack of startling sounds, but you won't find any actors at this year's haunted house.
This year we've upped our animatronic component of the tour, obviously because the animatronics won't infect anybody and they're distance far away and are actually very safe.
One of the many ways the group got creative.
I feel like something did pop up. Okay, or maybe not. Maybe I'm just seeing things now.
But that didn't make the experience any less spooky.
I thought it'd be just a bunch of jump scares. There was a lot more than that. The sound effects scared me. The little poppy things.
In past years, the haunted house was an adults-only experience. But with no trick-or-treating this year, kids got the invite too.
It's a sad time, but we need some levity. We need some experiences outside our homes, and what we want to do is, if those people choose to do that, we want to provide them a safe environment to have those experiences.
And safety didn't stop people from having fun.
As long as we stayed 6 feet apart, I felt like very comfortable and safe, and we all had our masks on, and like it was good.
Maybe I should go in. Gonna be confident. Okay, we're good. Just. That's what I mean. You can't be too cocky, because then you have things like that popping at you. That's great. Okay, I need a breather. Oh, can't breathe anymore. The haunted house tour will go on until November 1st, but organizers are reminding you, make sure to keep your masks on, be safe, but most importantly, have fun. Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
A new Canadian record was set today for distance cycled in an hour.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there it is.
That was a very, very painful experience. I felt fantastic to push myself to the limit and to feel what that feels like again.
Lionel Sanders cycled over 51 kilometers in just 60 minutes. The Windsor athletes circled the track 205 times at the Velodrome in Milton. The previous record of just over 48 kilometers was set in 2017. Sanders is also a four-time Ironman triathlon champion. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. Maribel Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. Have a great weekend, everyone. Good night.